Hi, my name is Jennifer Posada, and I want to talk to you today about self-love. So, self-love is the foundation not only of my world and my life, but all of my teachings, all of my work. And I want to tell you why today. Why is it so significant, so special? The most important factor that can change your entire world and life. So I want to start by telling you why it's important to me, why I'm here talking about this, how this started for me. You know, it wasn't a book I read when I was 20 or a realization I had when I was 30. This has to do with the way I was born. So I was born kind of different, and I didn't really know it at the time. It took me a while to realize other people weren't like me, but I could remember my past lives. I knew how to work with healing energies. I could talk to beings, all from my youngest years. But that's not really the exciting part for me, the most exciting part about my early childhood and these memories and feelings. The most amazing part was how I could feel the sacredness in everything around me. Absolutely everything. And because I was this most intimate form of this sacredness, I loved myself so much. So along with writing messages like I love my mommy when I was little with, hearts and rainbows, I would write I love myself. That's what I would write most, and I would make self with a capital S, just like referring to a person, because I knew this was this specialness, myself. So it doesn't mean, although I've loved myself my whole life, it doesn't mean I didn't, stand in front of the mirror with the other girls in middle school and look at my thighs like they did. It just didn't go as deep for me, because all the while there's been this amazing bedrock of self-love in my life. And when I was little, I realized at some point that the adults around me that were teaching me a lot of important things anyway, not to touch hot things, not to walk out in front of traffic, didn't necessarily know about self-love. And so it was very clear to me from, the age of 4 or 5 exactly why I was here on this earth and what I was meant to talk about and do. So that's what I've been doing for some time now, and I'm excited to share with you all through these videos all the resources that I can so that people all over the world can have very basic but very powerful tools for accessing their self-love. Because I do believe that the world will be changed with one person loving themselves at a time. And that's the revolution that I want to be a part of and am a part of. So what is this thing about self-love? What is self-love anyway? Well, here is the short version lowdown on self-love. Self-love is the self and love, right? Yes, it is loving yourself. What is the self and love though? Well, the self is you as you know yourself. Yeah, it is. You with your current name and your current lifetime, and that's fabulous. It's you, it's your body. It's also you as a soul, extending a long, far way back, which is very rich and profound, that wholeness of your being. The self is also, at a very deep level, connected to all that is. So you are inherently and forever unique and deeply connected. You retain that uniqueness within that connection. So in a way, the self is also the entirety of the universe. So what's love? Love is everything. I know it doesn't always look like everything. That's a whole other discussion. And love is what you are. It's what you're made up of. It's even what your body's made up of. It's what everything's made up of. And it's at the heart of everything. It's the essence of the entire universe. So really, the self and love are the same thing. So self-love is realizing that you are love. And that's kind of the more wide understanding of self-love. But let's narrow it down to our life, which really doesn't narrow it at all. It opens up a whole lot of possibilities. Let's look at what self-love means to us in this life. Yeah, it has amazing bonuses like increased self-worth and something I call radical self-acceptance, which leads to not only loving yourself, but adoring yourself, which is fantastic. It can also lead to really enhanced magnetism and bringing the people or loved one to your life that you're looking for, all of these things that people say. If you can love yourself, then you can find the person that can love you and you can be with, or the people. So that's wonderful. But again, let's bring it down to the day-to-day. So self-love is, again, as I said before, the single greatest factor of change you could ever bring into your life. If you're looking for something that can help you manage anything that's going on for you or bring in anything different that you'd like in your life, self-love is the number one place that I would send you. So how do we go about practicing self-love? Sometimes people think that it's this point you arrive at. April 16th, 2000 and whatever, I reached exact self-love. I never have a negative thought about myself. I am now perfect. But of course, we also have this deep sense that it's about knowing you're perfect no matter what. It's about the wholeness of who you are. It's about embracing and accepting all of your emotions. One of the examples that I like to use is the story of the goddess Isis. So she was, at one point, also a woman, an incarnate woman, and she had full self-realization, because essentially self-love in its fullest form is that goddess self-realization in its fullness. Some people like to call that enlightenment. So Isis had that. She was a fully aware divinity in a body. She still mourned when she went through her trials, her difficulties. In fact, she mourned like it was nobody's business. She wailed and suffered to the point that it made her seem aged and no one could recognize her anymore. And, she seemed like the mad woman down by the Nile, and, she allowed herself to be lost and at the same time fully whole and divine. And when we can do that here on earth, worlds open up. Worlds of gentleness with ourselves and love with ourselves and new possibilities we didn't think we could have while we're human. So it's about, yes, it's okay, I'm a spiritual being, and oh no, I got kind of pissy at the post office and I was rude or unnecessary. And then you get to decide in those moments, do I want to go back to the post office and say to the person who works there, gosh, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened there, that's not like me. Or do I want to decide, you know what, that was that moment, I'd like to do it differently next time, but it's okay. It's that acknowledgement of I'd like to do it differently next time. Imagine if every time you messed up, you could simply decide either to make amends in any way you needed to, and or to decide, I'm going to do it differently next time. That's my intention. And to be that understanding and consistently self-forgiving with ourselves. It's exciting. But again, it's not about I've reached 100%, I have never hard on myself, I'm perfectly got it down. Self-love is an ongoing process of embracing our true wholeness, letting wherever we are be okay. Again, radical self-acceptance. If you really can find yourself perfect right now, imagine where you can go. So what helps with this? What can I do about this? Now, I will be making more videos to flesh this out, but I'm going to make it pretty straightforward. I teach an approach to self-love that involves self-loving action. So I do think it's great to notice when you're being hard on yourself, or when you say something negative to yourself in your mind and you think, okay, that doesn't feel good. That's good. But something that I have found to be a much more powerful approach is to take self-loving action, to do things that feel good, to remember what feeling good is even like. For some of us, it's been a long time, or we were never taught to prioritize feeling good. In fact, we were told that's less important. Survival and success are over here. Feeling good, nice if you get there, right? So we know we're in the midst of a huge paradigm shift that I like to call the Great Remembering. We're just coming into it after a long period of what I call the Great Forgetting. So this paradigm shift is just changing. It is a powerful and rebel choice, a radical choice really, to love yourself and to do things that feel good for yourself, and to make an art form of it, to be diligent with it. So that means doing something that feels good, comforting, or fun every day if you can. And you don't want to force yourself or be too hard on yourself, because then it wouldn't feel self-loving. But you want to get to the point where you have at least a few things typically bring you joy or make you feel good. Now I say good, comforting, or fun because on a good day, you might be able to come up with things that feel good or fun. on a really low day, you might be able to come up only with something that feels comforting, and that's great. That's an option for when you can't just, snap your fingers and generate feeling great. In fact, doing something comforting works even when you're going through the dark night or you are in the underworld, the depths of the underworld. You can still do something that feels comforting. So my favorite example is, there are a few examples. You could have some warm soup, maybe have a hot bath or a nice cup of tea. But if it's at its very worst, I always say, even if you're curled up on the floor crying, you can grab a pillow and it's going to make it better than that cold linoleum you had your face on a moment ago. It really is going to make it better, imagine. So this is something that can be applied wherever you are at in your life, and it will make a difference. It's something that builds. It's like the best investment you could ever make, so that every time you do something, even the smallest, sweetest little thing for yourself, it builds and adds until it begins to grow on its own. So you're just putting like a coin in the piggy bank when you are gentle with yourself or do something that's good, comforting, or fun, which is essentially the connecting factor there is pleasureful. And this self-loving activity that you're doing is a re-inviting of pleasure into your life. Pleasure is something that people seem to talk about and want to a certain degree, but also is still taboo to really make pleasure a priority in your life. But, I love to be a living example of that being a good idea. I have the life of my dreams. And it doesn't mean I don't have challenges, but I'm also buoyed and supported through those challenges by what I know and practice about self-love. So, it is totally possible to have the life that you wish for and still go through what you need to for your soul growth. Because we've always got a couple of lines of manifestation going on. This is how I teach and describe it. We have conscious manifestation and soul level manifestation. Soul level manifestation is something we might not be fully aware of, but we've manifested in this life because we need to go through it for some healing purpose, ultimately to bring us to more bliss, joy, and pleasure, even if we can't see that now. And then the conscious level, and they both function in an interactive way, is what we really want to bring in. Ultimately, every soul gets their heart's desires. Every soul. One more thing I want to say about self-love is that it is the foundation and the entry point for having an amazing opening of your gifts as a soul, your intuitive gifts, and accessing your sexuality. So if those are things that you are interested in, living your gifts, being more intuitive, feeling fantastic sexually, then self-love is definitely the direction to look in. One of the reasons that I teach self-love as the foundation in my intuition work and intuition courses, which I teach by phone, so my courses are available all over the world. One of the reasons that I teach self-love as the foundation is because in remembering the teachings from my past lives as an oracle, self-love was always the container, the support, the space which we could access, which would then allow us to surrender to ecstatic states and remember what we truly know, which is everything when you really get down to it. So you can access the full knowing of the universe through that support of self-love. And if you think about it, bringing it to that day-to-day life example again, when you spend time on your own or with friends where you're having pleasure and enjoying yourself, but you're really feeling that organic groove of your own nature, your own sweet joy. And it's okay if listening to this you think, oh, it's been years since I felt that way. Or I don't know if I've ever felt that way. But you have to follow whatever spark you can until it begins to allow you to feel that pleasure and joy again. Even if at first it's just comfort, as I mentioned before. So when you do whatever makes you feel good, go be in nature, do yoga, ride your bike, read a book, watch a funny movie, spend time with friends laughing, write, paint, look at a magazine, it doesn't matter. This doesn't have to be something thought of as quote-unquote spiritual. It's whatever makes you feel good, truly, in that moment. You have to kind of check in, is this actually making me feel good right now? So check in and do that. When you do that, it realigns you with your true self and what you know. And that's why it's the foundation. So there's so much more for me to tell you. I mean, this is like so tip of the iceberg. You can barely see this little tip of the iceberg. But it's a place to begin. And I hope you'll enjoy my other videos. If you'd like to get my other videos and all my best goodies, be sure to sign up for my email list. That's where I send all the best stuff at my website, which is jenniferposada.com, where you can also see all my other courses and writings. There are so many good ones there, which I hope you'll enjoy. With all my heart and all my love.